Many online discussions on social media that criticise the ideas of Karl Marx make claims that fundamentally mistake some of his most basic premises. One common example of this is the idea that Marx thinks people should just stop working, stop producing things, and effectively have everything provided to them. Such claims demonstrate a fundamental misunderstanding of how Marx views human nature. For Marx, humans are fundamentally productive beings. This is part of our species being. It is what distinguishes us from the rest of the animal kingdom. Rather than simply adapting to nature, we transform it. We use the resources found in nature and creatively produce something that previously only exists in our imagination. In doing so, we produce the necessities for our survival. Food is something that we produce. Clothing is something that we produce. Shelter is something that we produce. The world around us becomes a reflection of our labour. Labour is something that humans just do. It is part of what defines us as a species. This is foundational to Marx's thinking. Categorically, he does not believe humans should just stop working. As something that is fundamental to our species being, for Marx, labour is an inherently expressive and creative act. This presents a problem for labour under capitalism. In capitalist systems, the means of production are owned by a small number of capitalists. The tools and materials needed to produce material life are owned and controlled by a wealthy few. This group of capitalists is defined by Marx as the bourgeoisie. In order for everyday members of society, defined by Marx as the proletariat, to produce their means of survival, they are forced to work for the bourgeoisie. The majority of the population is unable to survive unless they produce for someone else. The structure of capitalism, for this reason, is inherently exploitative. Workers are forced to produce for someone else who will extract surplus value from their labour, necessarily paying them less than the true value of their labour. This relationship between the worker and the capitalist is forced. Workers do not have a choice. It is a relationship that is, by definition, exploitative. But exploitation alone is not the sole problem. The situation also inherently results in the experience of alienation for workers in a number of ways. In capitalism, the workers' labour becomes something external. It no longer belongs to them. They have no control over it. It is performed under coercion. It becomes a means to survive rather than an expression of life. In their work, the labourer denies themselves and feels outside themselves. Labour becomes exhausting and degrading rather than fulfilling and creative. The worker becomes a living appendage to the machine. Modern industry dominates them. It drains their energy and controls their movements. The process of production and the division of labour that shapes it belong not to the worker but to the capitalist. The worker is reduced to labouring according to the purposes of someone else. The things that workers create do not belong to them. The products of their work become the private property of the capitalist who sells them for a profit. What the worker produces stands apart from them as something hostile and alien. Even their own capacity to work becomes a commodity that can be bought and sold. Labour itself gains an exchange value that exists independently of the person who performs it. The product of human activity comes to dominate the worker who created it. Capitalism disrupts cooperation and community among workers. Labour is divided, specialised and organised to maximise productivity. People work side by side but effectively remain strangers. Competition is encouraged. Workers are pitted against one another for wages, promotions and recognition. This hostility among workers serves the interests of the capitalist class by deflecting anger away from those who own and control production. In this system, workers become alienated from what makes them human. The capacity to create freely, to see oneself in one's work, and to shape the world meaningfully is stripped away. Instead of being an expression of human potential, labour becomes a form of self-denial. The workplace becomes a site where the worker feels least human and least themselves. Consciousness is dulled, creativity is suppressed, human life is subordinated to the logic of profit. Marx's theory of alienation is not a call to the end of work. It is a call to the end of work as exploitation and a source of alienation. Labour, for Marx, is the highest expression of human creativity and freedom. Under capitalism, it becomes the opposite. The worker's energy, imagination, and capacity to create are turned against them. To overcome alienation would mean reclaiming labour as a human, social, and creative act. It would mean restructuring production so that it reflects human needs rather than profit. Marx's critique is not anti-work. It is a critique of the structure of work as a source of alienation.